Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news this Tuesday, the 11th of November 2020. Why don't I know what year it is? 5. I thought it was 26 for a minute. I am getting old. Anyway, lots to talk about this morning. We're going to be starting off talking about Elliot Anderson. There's a story coming in this morning about a price being agreed for him, which totally blows out any opportunity of a January transfer window unless Man United want to break their transfer record. That's how much of a price Elliot Anderson's going to be. Also, some interesting stuff coming out about Amorim this morning. He was in tears. Amorim in tears after a loss for Manchester United. We'll talk about that. And also there's stuff coming out from The Athletic around Amorim slamming the backup players, saying they're not working hard enough either. So some interesting stories to get into this morning. As always, give us your thoughts. But let's start off with this story around Elliot Anderson, because it's Plettigoal who, when it comes to transfers, we know is maybe not Romano, maybe not Ornstein, but he's certainly not bad. And effectively, what is being said, I've just completely and utterly hit the wrong thing here, gone to the wrong thing. Here it is. Manchester United remain, Elliot Anderson remains a strong target for Manchester United, and they have registered concrete interest. Nottingham Forest are informed of Manchester United's interest, and a fee in the region of 100 to 120 million pounds is still being demanded. Now, look, obviously, we may well expect that price to come down at some point in the future, but that is what it's going to take. That's what it's going to take for Manchester United to get hold of Elliot Anderson. And I saw this morning as well. I don't know where it's gone. I can't get that now. Where is it? 1 minute. It's really good and I want to use it. Should be able to find it. So, yeah, I mean, let me go back to that. So, yeah, effectively, some people on the show last night were saying, why can't we do a deal in January? And I think the reason we can't do a deal in January is because Nottingham Forest are not going to let us do a deal in January. They're going to demand ridiculous money. And let's just be clear, Declan Rice did go for £100 million. Caicedo did go for £100 million. And if we want to blame anybody, then we need to blame them, Chelsea, Arsenal, because Nottingham Forest are not going to be wrong. You know, I was thinking about this. Like, there was a great comment last night. I don't care what it costs. We need to go and get Elliot Anderson. Elliot Anderson. We need to go and get Elliot Anderson because he's so good on the eye. Played very well against us. Has played very well for them for the last few months. He's starting for England. We'll probably see him on Thursday against Serbia. But secondary to that, he's also like completely what Manchester United need. Tenacious, brilliant on the pass, good at moving forward, does everything that we need and would slot into that Man United midfield and make it better instantaneously. But this is a really important update because there are some United fans who think, well, why don't we just go and spend the money in January? But we would be spending, I can't remember when Chelsea signed Enzo Fernandez in January, and I think he was £100 million as well. Or just about. King Walker says we should do whatever we can to get him. I don't care if it will take 100 million. I do actually. I mean, this is what I wanted to just get into. This is why I think it's such an interesting story this morning. I think 100 million pounds is way beyond our means. I don't think we will do it. I don't think we should do it. I don't think we can do it. And I think it's a problem because whilst I think he's a good player, I look at where Man United are at the moment, and we haven't got another £100 million to go and spend. When I look at Arsenal and they spent £100 million on Declan Rice, that wasn't their budget. They had more money to spend and they spent more money the summer before and more money the summer after. When I look at Chelsea, when they bought Caicedo, they bought Enzo, they bought Badiashile, they bought Mudryk, they bought all these players around that. I think if we go and spunk £100 million all over this deal, then that's it. That's the deal. And I don't like that sort of thing for two reasons. One, comes into Man United, doesn't do very well or gets injured. Or two, there's no more money to spend. We need more than one player. So I like the player. I do. But I just don't think we can go and spend that amount of money. I mean, you tell me, would you spend £100 million just on Elliot Anderson? I think it's too much money. I think it's way too much money. And I find it concerning. But what I will say is, because a lot of people are saying Forest can jog on, we're not paying that. They can't jog on, because when you compare it to Declan Rice, there's not a lot of difference between Declan Rice and Elliot Anderson in relation to when Declan Rice left Arsenal. And if I was Nottingham Forest CEO and Man United knocked on the door and said, oh, come on, we're only going to give you 65 million, I'd say, oh, come on, Declan Rice was at West Ham playing for England and they got £100 million for him. Elliot Anderson is at Nottingham Forest playing in the Europa League. West Ham won the Conference League. Playing in the Europa League, playing for England, going to the World Cup, we want £100 million. So I think they've got every right to go for it, really. I don't know, this camera's getting on my bloody tits. Why is it now doing this? It's meant to be on autofocus. Piece of shit. I don't know what it's doing. I don't know why it keeps doing that. I've got to get used to it. Strange. It was perfect, but it's fine now. It's because I've moved the thing round and it's decided to be stupid. Isildur says, "Come on, he's not Declan Rice." I didn't say it was Declan Rice. What I'm saying is, I think that's the price, and I don't think Plettigoal is a bad journalist. I think he's good, and I think that will be the price that they're setting. So. The interesting thing is what Alias says is, do you think the price, I don't believe the price. That'll be the price at the moment. That'll be the price today. That'll be the price to stop us trying anything in January. I wouldn't be surprised if a story came out from a less significant journalist this morning talking about United aren't going to buy anyone in January because they're waiting for Anderson in the summer. And that might be true. That might be true. Manchester United have got form for this. We literally spoke about this yesterday morning. Over this international break, it's going to go transfer mad. And it'll be the same for other clubs as well, because this is the last opportunity to speak to clubs and agents before the January transfer window, because everyone's got loads of games over Christmas. So this 2 weeks is the 2 weeks where you really do sound out what you're going to do. And I said yesterday morning, I wouldn't be surprised if over this 2 weeks, we get the brief from United that they're not looking to do anything in January. Well, I'll tell you what, if Manchester United say they're not doing anything in January, they can go forth and prosper with their Glazer bloody loving. Because if we're going to sit there and go, we're content with what we've got till the summer, we're waiting till the summer is a World Cup year, you fucking idiots. The World Cup is going to take up all of the summer until mid-July. If United say we're ignoring the January transfer window to focus on the summer, they're a bunch of fucking chances. And we've been lied to so many times, and it's happened so many times. I think that I think it needs to be said, because we cannot listen to another fucking Glazer bullshit lie about, we're waiting till the summer. I don't trust the Glazers. And I don't trust Sir Jim Radcliffe. I don't trust their transfer policy. So I will not sit here, no matter what certain paid aggregators do. I am not going to sit here and swallow the bollocks that we're not doing anything in January because we're prioritising midfielders in the summer. Because I do not believe for 1 minute that next summer we're going to go and spend £150 million on 2 midfielders and get them both. Oh, we're going to get Belieber and Anderson. Yeah, because every other club in the world is going to sit on their arse and do nothing. And if we don't get Champions League football, we won't have the money anyway. So let me tell you a very familiar story. We're not going to do anything in January because we want to sign Elliot Anderson and Belieber in the summer. January window closes. Some morons in our fan base go, stop moaning, calm down. We need to calm down. We'll sign Elliot Anderson and Belieber in the summer. No, we won't. Yes, we will. And then we'll hit May, we won't qualify for Europe, and it's a challenging summer coming. We would love to have signed Elliot Anderson and Belieber, but I think everybody understands that without European football, we are restricted at the end of the day, and we can't sign them. This is why we need to sign players in January. This is why we need to bring a player in January. Now, it won't be Elliot Anderson and it won't be Belabor and it won't be Wharton, but we need to bring a bloody midfielder in, because if we don't, and we don't get European football, we won't get any of these players anyway. So we cannot ignore the January transfer window. I'm not demanding that we sign Elliot Anderson in January, but we have to buy somebody in January. We have to use this January transfer window, because Liverpool have used the January transfer window, Man City have used the January transfer window, and Chelsea have used the January transfer window in the last few years. And where do they always finish? In the top 4. We have to use it. So I will not take kindly to United briefing it out there that they're going to ignore the January transfer window, because nothing's changed if we do that. And I'm tired of people telling me, oh, things are changing under Ineos. They're changing. They're changing. They're not bloody changing if we ignore another January transfer window like we did last year. Because Dorgu doesn't bloody count. He's a 20-year-old prospect. That wasn't somebody that was going to come into the team and help us now. So, you know, people might say you're getting a bit agitated on a Tuesday morning, but I don't want to hear. I just don't want to hear it again. I don't want to hear another bloody brief from the club that we're not doing anything in January, because we need to. But anyway, look, if you've tuned in a bit late, the price set for Elliot Anderson at the moment is £100 million. And I think it's a reasonable price at the moment, but that will change as we approach the summer. But the most important thing is, 1, you've got to have the money. 2, he won't be enough. And 3, we won't be the only horse in the race. So if we want him, yes, the price might come down, but I would also say we need to be in a strong position in the summer to sign him, because he ain't going to sign for a club that's not in the Champions League. Why would you? Why would you? I also think it's very interesting, just before we move on, to say let's not forget what Ben Jacobs said on the show last Friday with Beth. He believes that the price for Elliot Anderson is currently considerably less than 100 million. So look, Forest are setting a price at 100 million. Ben Jacobs is saying that price is below that. I don't know the story behind that. I watched that show with everybody else. We've got Ben Jacobs again on Thursday. Maybe we can probe a little bit more. But I don't know. Is there a release clause in there? Is there a clause that if you're not in Europe, you know, there could be all sorts in there. The best we'll get in January is a loan deal, says Liam. Look, what we need to be doing in January, to be blunt, is doing a Conor Gallagher type deal. We won't do a Wharton or an Anderson or a Belabor, but we can do a Conor Gallagher type deal. And it doesn't have to be Conor Gallagher. He represents somebody that we can bring in January that will improve us, but it's got to be somebody like that, definitely. I think most people acknowledge how good Anderson is, but surely we can get a similar type player for cheaper. That's Favell and Wilcox's job. As you said, Mark, we need several players, not just one. Thank you very much to Patrick Lynch. Yeah, look, I would. There's absolutely no way I would go anywhere near spending £100 million on Elliot Anderson. But listen to this. Elliot Anderson, this is what I was trying to find at the start of the show. Elliot Anderson in the Premier League for central midfielders this season. Most touches, most passes completed, most passes into the final third, most possessions won, most duels won, most take-ons completed. Unbelievable. And I will say that that is incredible, really. And that is why I can't sit through another January transfer window where Man United lie to their fans again and say, we're not doing anything in January because we don't believe it's a good window to do anything. We like to do stuff in the summer, and in the summer we're going to sign Elliot Anderson. And then the summer comes and we don't sign Elliot Anderson, and May comes and we fucked up the season because we didn't do anything in January. Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City have all bought players in January and been better for it. So we can't buy this bullshit anymore. We can't just sit and do nothing. But I tell you what, when you look at Elliot Anderson and you look at stuff like that, most touches, most passes in the final third, most possessions won, most duels won, most take-ons completed, for a midfielder who plays for Nottingham Forest, not Man City, that's incredible. That is incredible. And I'm not a stats merchant, but that is incredible. And also, let's not forget, that will pick up the ears of lots of other clubs. look, you would have said at the start of the season, Liverpool aren't going to be looking at a midfielder next summer. You look at their midfield at the moment, you go, they might look at Elliot Anderson. Newcastle might want to bring him back. He's from that area. Their midfield's not doing very well. Look, at the start of the season, I would have said Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, Newcastle don't need midfielders. So we would have a good run at someone like Elliot Anderson or Adam Wharton. I think the way the season's going and the way the Champions League works and the way injuries work and the way the World Cup's going to tire people out, I think teams like Arsenal, Liverpool, etc., they will have the money to do that, and they might have the desire to do it as well. So it's a competitive market. I would say he is the number one choice at the moment, but it's not. It's not going to be. It's not going to be without its problems, I think. Weekend Bus says, "Would you take Lewandowski on loan?" No, because he won't be leaving Barcelona. He won't be leaving Barcelona before the end of the season, and then he's 38. So no, I wouldn't do that. Interestingly, we've got some other stuff coming in. We can circle back to that, but I want to just get involved in this stuff that came out from The Athletic as well. So effectively, this is what has been said. There's a little bit about the formation as well as in relation to this. Also, Fabrizio Romano on Sesko has said that there's expected to be clarity around Sesko's knee injury soon. It's not seen as serious or too long problem. Key news ahead of January window for Manchester United, waiting for club statements. Okay, well, we'll see what happens with that. But this was interesting. So this came out from Laurie Whitwell. I mean, am I getting deja vu here? Did this not get put out a couple of weeks ago or in the last international break? And Whitwell denied he said it about Ugarte. Am I confusing something? Wasn't there a show we did in the international break where The Athletic had done a show in Dublin, and somebody at the show had tweeted out that Whitwell had said something about Ugarte, and then he denied it had been said, and now it's out anyway. I don't know. We reported it at the time anyway, so I don't give a shit. During the end-of-season meeting at Carrington that followed United's Europa League final loss to Tottenham, Amorim had particular pointed feedback for Ugarte, who he had felt let his work rate slide from their time together at Sporting. Amorim believed Ugarte had gotten comfortable and said he did not recognise him as the same player from their first stint together. Yeah, that came out last month, and I'm sure Whitwell tried to deny it, and now it's coming out now. Well, I don't see what the problem with it last time was. Anyway, it's out now. So basically, end of season meeting, Carrington, Amorim pointed out in front of everybody that Ugarte had let his work rate slide from their time together at Sporting, and Amorim believed Ugarte had gotten comfortable and said he did not recognise him as the same player from their first stint together. I mean, that is incredible, isn't it? Brian says the new camera's amazing. Thank you very much, mate. I've still got to work a few things on it, but thank you very much. That is pretty amazing. That is. Because it goes on to say as well that Amorim preference for delivering feedback in group settings. He'd rather do it in group settings rather than one-on-one. And this has been cause of conversations among players. The subject came up on United's post-season tour as several took the chance to chew the fat on the rooftop of the hotel in Kuala Lumpur. Some players might like more tailored instructions. Ruben Amorim wants those on the fringes of selection to show him they deserve minutes in training sessions rather than face-to-face meetings. Now, look, I wouldn't want to start saying, oh, God, more leaks. But effectively, that is a leak. I mean, unless I'm misinterpreting this, reading that article, what it basically says is that Amorim, twice now, has called players out in a group setting, Ugarte, Garnacho, and that players aren't really happy about it. He likes to criticise players in a group environment rather than one-on-one. And this has been the cause of some, dissatisfaction in the United squad, which was discussed on the post-season tour in a hotel, presumably with the press, that the players don't like his approach and would like more tailored instructions. I mean, this is just this is just strange to me. This is just strange to me because I think it's like, I don't know where to go on this. There's two ways of looking at it. In one way, you know, you could say Amorim is the boss and he must be allowed to run the club he wants, and the players shouldn't be leaking out their dissatisfaction to journalists who are basically parasites. You know, most. I mean, I'm not individualizing that, but most journalists are parasites, aren't they? They're there to service their own needs. They're not there to service that of the club. Whereas Amorim exclusively is there to service the betterment of the club. Players might not like it, but his job is to win football games, and therefore he manages in the way that he wants to. So why are players sat chewing the fat with journalists about the weaknesses of Amorim and what they don't like? I find that strange. And yet again, we can probably start to figure out who those players are because, let's be honest, most of the foreign players don't sit having conversations with the British press. So, you know, we start walking down that road. I don't really want to walk down that road because we're in a better position as a football club. But the players need to realise that that's the manager. The formation is the manager. The style of play is the manager. The signings are the managers. The team 11, starting 11 is the manager. And the way he wants to deal with you is the manager. You are not the manager of Man United as a player. You are not a stakeholder. You are not the CEO. You are a paid employee. And if you don't like it, fuck off, basically. Because over the last few years, we've been shit. So it always, I get it. Some people in the chat might go, well, I don't like the fact, I wouldn't like it if my boss had a go at me in front of everybody else. I'd rather it was done in a one-on-one situation. I completely agree with that. I completely agree with that. I was listening to Roy Keane last week, and he was saying that when he was on island duty in Japan in 2002, and he ended up walking out of the squad, it was because, you know, Mick McCarthy didn't want to do it in a one-on-one. He wanted to do it in front of everybody else. And he was like, fine, but I won't stay quiet. I'll come back at you. And it went bad. It went very, very bad. So, look, some people don't mind being called out in front of everybody else because they'll give it back. So it can be an interesting environment. Some people want it in a one-on-one situation because they don't want to feel humiliated. And I would imagine most modern footballers want it in a one-on-one situation so they don't get humiliated in front of their mates. But Amorim can manage that club however he wants to manage it. And my only issue with this is that whether I would like that or not, I don't like the fact, again, that that's very good information that Laurie Whitwell has in The Athletic. He wasn't sat in the fucking room, was he, when Ugarte got balled out? But he was clearly there on the rooftop at the hotel getting the information that the players don't like it. And I would imagine the conversation went something like this. Rooftop of the Kuala Lumpur hotel. Whitwell's there. Certain players are there. Yeah, you know what? He had a right go at Ugarte at the end of the season. It wasn't just Garnacho. He had a right go at Ugarte. Basically called him lazy. Said he's not working hard. Yeah. We don't really like it. You know, we don't like it. We'd rather it was one-on-one. We don't really like it in the group, you know. And you just sort of like go, why is that information coming out? Now, look, Laurie Whitwell might not have been there, but there's another one from James Ducker I'm going to give you in a minute about Amorim being in tears. So somebody's putting it out there, aren't they? And I just think, look, if we'd lost our last two games and this came out, it's damaging because it's leaks. We're in a good position. We are in a good position. We're unbeaten in 5 games. We're in touching distance of top 4. I think there are issues, but I don't think the issues are around the man management of Amorim. I don't think the issues are around how he's treating the players. The issues we have at the moment are these players aren't good enough mentally. They keep fucking switching off at half time. So I don't really want to hear negativity around Amorim from players who ultimately are still the problem at the club. I mean, look, I always think there are 3. What are your thoughts on this, right? I always think there are 3 areas that cause the problems for Manchester United on the pitch: the board, the manager, and the players. At the moment, the board have set us up for this season without a midfielder, so they're always going to get mentioned. And we've mentioned them about they've got to do something in January. But other than that, okay. The manager, unbeaten in 5. We're doing better. Is it his fault that we've drawn the last 2 games? No, I think it's the players. At half-time, we're 1-0 up. There's no way in the dressing room he says, give up. And they've given up. So I don't really want to hear about players going, yeah, it's almost like the problem at Man United is we've created this culture where they actually think they're in charge. And I think that's the best way I can explain it. They behave like they're in charge. They feed information out to journalists like they're in charge. It's almost like they're going, it's like they treat the manager like a new puppy. Yeah, I do like him, but you know what? He can be annoying when he's barking in the garden. And, you know, the other day, he did a poo on the living room floor. But I'm thinking of keeping him because I do like him. You know, he's got a good personality, and I do like him. But yeah, he's shit on the floor again. And I think that's not the relationship here. That's not the relationship. But I still think that because of the way the football club has behaved over the last 5 to 10 years, we've empowered players to a point where they are quite comfortable to openly feed stuff out about a manager that ultimately just causes that drip, drip, drip effect. We've had it over the years. Oh, we don't like training in the dark, you know, this, that, and the other. And we're even getting it now that they're going, yeah, we don't like the way he gives out criticism. We'd rather he did it in a one-on-one. Hold on a minute. You don't like the way the manager gives out criticism. Well, who gives a fucking shit? Because you're not the manager. Sit down and take your medicine or piss off. And that's how I look at it. But we have empowered these players to a point where they think their opinion counts. And I still think one of the biggest issues we've got at this football club and why we need to keep clearing players out and bringing better players in like Cunha and Burmo, Lemens, etc. is because we still have players in that team that inexplicably switch off. And you look at the second half against Forest and Spurs, how many of those players on that pitch, I haven't done the maths, but how many players on that pitch are not new signings who have witnessed many games where you switch off? Well, let's go to Spurs because it's easier. Well, I can't even remember the Spurs lineup now, but across both games, definitely Delo, definitely Shaw, definitely Maguire, definitely Casemiro, definitely Bruno. So half the team is experienced in switching off. And I think that's our biggest problem at the moment. Simon Cox says Luke Shaw needs to stop speaking to the press. I don't know whether it is Luke Shaw. I don't know, but I don't know who it is. Hi, Mark. Can you please give a shout out to the legend Abi Ayul, the biggest Man United content creator in Ethiopia? Please vote for him at the 2025 TikTok Creator Award in Ethiopia. That's from Abel. I've never bloody heard of him. But look, good luck. Good luck to Abi Ayul, the biggest Man United content creator in Ethiopia. Vote for him if you're on TikTok for the Creative Award in Ethiopia. There you go. Shout out. Lovely stuff. Emily Derry says, the bomb squad were redundant by the time they left, but they were redundant because Amorim decided they were surplus to requirements for one reason or another. Current players should take note. Thank you, Emily. What you need to do is remove these players before they impact the other players, because if you've got 3 or 4 players that are quite happy to sit there and basically slate the manager to the press on the regular, then they're a problem. But if other players learn that, you remove those 4 and another 4 have learnt it. Fortunately, I think we're in a position with a lot of our players where, you know, Mbeumo, Cunha, De Ligt, Mazraoui, Lemens, it's just not really, from a cultural point of view, I don't think they're going to have those relationships. I really don't. Archie says, I don't care what players aren't happy about. Ferguson threw a boot at Beckham. These players have been bad for so long. I think if our managers has standards, we should back it. Obvious propaganda again. Yeah, I mean, look, and finally, what's your thoughts on Ugarte being called out in front of the whole dressing room for not putting the work in? Pause. I think that that's the manager's decision. You know, if the manager wants to do that, that's the decision. I would always look at it from the outside in and say, like, you know, Ugarte has performed not particularly well under Amorim, really, but there are other people who've performed badly as well. What I did take issue with was that Ruben Amorim wants those on the fringes of selection to show him they deserve minutes in training sessions rather than through face-to-face meetings. He literally said on Thursday, there are players that train really well who deserve game time, but I can't give it them. So there's a contradiction in the story there. And these are the things that we pick up as a community because we're not driven by, you know, agenda or, you know, sensationalism. We react to the news. But Ruben Amorim wants those on the fringes of selection to show him he deserves minutes in training sessions rather than through face-to-face meetings. Ruben Amorim on Thursday said, there's people training who deserve to play. I just haven't got minutes for them. So there's a this is what I mean. You can't believe everything you read because that is clearly coming in from player sources because it's in the same bit about the rooftop moaning about how Amorim speaks to people. But Ruben Amorim himself, we will take Ruben Amorim's mouth and words over a journalist. Ruben Amorim himself said, there are players that are training really well, i.e. Kobbie Mainoo, who deserve to start, but I can't give them minutes. So there's a contradiction there, because if Amorim wants players to show him they deserve minutes in training sessions, when they do, he can't pick them anyway. So it's a bit of a contradiction there. But this one caught my eye as well. This came in from James Ducker. So it feels like, I mean, look, Laurie Whitwell, The Athletic, James Ducker, The Telegraph, they're separate people with separate outlets. Both this morning putting out information from the dressing room. So how many people are putting stuff out from the dressing room? Because two different journalists, two different stories. Ruben Amorim, with tears forming in his eyes, accidentally smashed a television in the dressing room after launching into an angry tirade in the wake of a 3-1 defeat to Brighton. It shocked the players to see the manager that way, but some totally understood his strength of feeling and, if anything, grew in respect for him. And I think that was last January, wasn't it, as well? So I think that was quite a while ago. But look, I think what we have here is probably what we have in reality. We've got stories coming out about Amorim. Some could be taken as positive, some could be taken as negative. But what it shows me is that we'll forever be in this position where you're teetering on the edge at Manchester United. Like you're either doing really, really well and everyone says you're doing really well, or you're doing really, really bad and everyone wants you to get sacked. And because he's drawn his last two games, we're sort of teetering on this, are we going to be good or are we going to be bad? And if we're going to be bad, let's load up a few stories about why he's bad. And if we're going to be good, let's call it passion, you know? I couldn't give a shit about the TV and I couldn't give a shit about the Brighton game because it was last January. But what I do care about is what we were sort of talking about before. The Ugarte thing is really, really interesting because it doesn't make any sense to me. If Amorim has said to Ugarte in front of everybody, you're not working hard, you're not the player you used to be, why isn't he working hard? I find it really weird because Ugarte is not the sort of player I would think, oh, he's probably out down China White, having a bit of a, what do they call it, a vape and all that bollocks that some players have been accused of doing. It doesn't strike me as the sort of player who would do that. Strikes me the sort of player that is a professional footballer that wants to play football. Strikes me as the sort of player that would put the work in. So it's strange with Ugarte. Is it homesick? I don't know. But it's strange that Ugarte would be targeted. But Garnacho got the same treatment, didn't he? He got called out in front of the dressing room as well. So I don't know. I don't know what to take from that. I know what I do take from it. He doesn't trust Ugarte, he doesn't trust Mainoo, and he doesn't trust Xerxes, but we did that on the show last night. These players are going to get replaced. Ugarte is going to get replaced. I said it last night. He is going to get replaced. 100% he's going to get replaced because, all right, Amorim will always provide a way back, but it doesn't look to me. The mic drop is this. If that happened in the summer, in June, where Ugarte got balled out in front of the whole team, he's had the whole of the summer and the last 3 months, and he's not responded to it. So it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. And it sounds to me like Amorim likes to do that in front of everybody and doesn't like one-on-ones. And clearly that's not going to work with everybody because management, as we all know, some people respond to an arm around the shoulder, some people respond to a kick up the arse. Some people respond to the silent treatment, some people don't. So what we can say is that Ugarte's had the ultimate put down and hasn't responded to it. So he's not going to get used, is he? He probably spoke to him one-on-one first, then took the next step. Fair given his wages and transfer costs, we need to have some standards, says John United. Somebody said there, why doesn't he treat Bruno like that? Because Bruno does. I don't think you could ever accuse Bruno of not putting the effort in. It's very clear that he doesn't feel like Ugarte. I've said this about Ugarte, though. I like Ugarte, but I've said it on many watch-along. He's got a worried face. I don't know whether he had it at PSG or Sporting or Uruguay, but he always has a worry. He's always chewing gum, and he always has a worried face. After every tackle or yellow card, he always has a really worried face. He doesn't look confident. So something's going on. Something's going on. Hi, Mark. 2 questions. Who are the 5 players listed for transfer, and who is in the picture on the stands beside the Predator boot? That is Duncan Edwards, my granddad's favourite player. And that was a book he had, which is like a match report for every game. So it's always been on the shelf from the very, very first show. And the 5 listed players, well, we spoke about it last night, so you need to check the show out. But Xerxes, Ugarte, Mainu, Casemiro, and Maguire, I think, were the 5. Journalists will always stir the pot. Certain players have been given minutes and have shown why they don't start, period, says Dave. Yeah, but I think you need to watch last night's show, Dave. I think whoever it was who started the conversation, you know, Ugarte, Xerxes, Mainu, they're averaging half an hour of Premier League minutes a month. We saw it with Mazraoui at the weekend. We can't just say, you've had 10 minutes, you've had your chance. That's total and utter nonsense. Total and utter nonsense. These players are not getting enough game time, and you can't expect them to get thrown in for half an hour a month and perform. We've got a big, big problem there. Basically, to summarise, I said it at the end of the show last night, many of us feel that having one game a week is beneficial, but I don't think it is. Because the Premier League is so intense, even if you're playing one game a week, you're still going to get tired in the 70th minute. So you either keep those players on who are tired, and we've seen what happens with that, or you take them off for players that aren't fresh, and we've seen what happens with that. One game a week isn't actually helping us because our subs aren't fresh, and our first 11 is getting tired. So although we thought it was going to be great, I think it's a bit of a problem at the moment. How he solves that problem, I don't know. Like, maybe at the start to the season, he didn't solve it well enough because everybody had a pre-season, but only about 12 players have kept their fitness levels up. The rest of them just aren't getting game time, which is why one game a week has been a bit of a problem for us. And we thought it would be a positive, but it can be problematic. No Anderson, no Champers, says Jake. Thank you very much, Jake. Thank you very much to Dave the Brave. Patrick Lynch says, professional sport, and in particular team sport, are different to normal working environments. Giving criticism in a group setting is the norm in any team I've played with. Wouldn't it be the same here, says Patrick. Oh, God. I mean, I don't know. I suppose if you play for Manchester United, it's a little bit different. But, I mean, I remember, like, one of the best teams I played for, just because it was just we were a good team, was when I was, like, under 16s, my final year at secondary school. And my friend's dad was the manager. And a couple of us grew up with that friend. We were around his house all the time. So we had quite a close relationship with his dad in relation to he'd swear and everything around us. And because of that, he got treated differently. And in the dressing room, like, It's probably a little bit like Sir Alex, wasn't it? You know, I remember somebody saying like Cantona never got told off, but he'd always tell off Giggsy and everyone else like that because he'd known them for longer. And yeah, I've never played for a football team at any level and been took away one-on-one. I mean, if they did that in your school team, they'd probably get a bloody warning, wouldn't they? Why are you taking him in a room on his own? So, no, I think you don't have time a lot of the time, especially in a dressing room. You haven't got time to go, I think you were fucking shit. Let's go and have a chat. Like, you do it in that environment. That's how it works. So I think Patrick, again, makes a great point. Why are players moaning about being shouted at or given feedback collectively? Because if you think about Amorim, right, he might just be doing it from an efficiency point of view. He has to do so many bloody interviews, Alan Sugar FC, and then the players want him to do individual one-on-ones. We've got so many problems at that football club. He'd never do any training. I mean, that squad's about 20 players. Hardly any of them. All right, Delit, you're all right. You're not having a meeting. You're doing really, really well. You'd be there all day. It's much more efficient for a manager to do it in a collective group. It's time consuming. Saves time as well. Pranil says, I think you are too into Casemiro. He's very important to our team. Even the manager admires him and says how important he is to our team. Oh, boring. Boring Casemiro loving. Bore off. I'm not interested in it because you're not even talking properly. What I said is that Casemiro's 34 in February. He's not the future. Obviously, he's our best midfielder at the moment, but I'm not buying into the loving that this is... look, Casemiro is doing well at the moment. Okay. He's had some shit games. He's had some good games. But is he going to be here next season? No. Are we meant to be building a project? Yes. I'm not excited about Casemiro in the Man United side. So what? So what? If you are, get your tissues out. I couldn't give a shit. Will Amorim call out on Bruno or Safe all the time? JB. I think Bruno Fernandes is too powerful to be called out by Ruben Amorim. We all know, and some of us know firsthand the demographics of that dressing room and what goes on in it. Bruno Fernandes could not be dropped by Ruben Amorim. In my opinion, he could not be dropped by Ruben Amorim. Bruno Fernandes could not be dropped by Ruben Amorim for any period of time because he would lose the dressing room. That's my opinion. Morning, the United stand and family, says Ray. Thank you very much, Ray. Hope you're doing very well. Can I just go back on that and say there's no reason to drop Bruno Fernandes. He's one of our best players. I'd just play him as a number 10, but it would be the end of Amorim if he dropped Bruno. There's certain players that I'd say if Arne Slot started dropping Van Dijk, it wouldn't go well. I think Pep Guardiola can drop whoever he wants. He's that powerful. I think Arteta can drop whoever he wants. He's that powerful at that football club. But you've got to be in a very strong position to be able to drop players like that. Yeah, and the reason I said Slot dropping Van Dijk is because they've lost 5 of the last 6. He's not in a strong position, and then if you drop a player and it doesn't get any better. Yeah, if you're going to drop a big player like that, you've got to have the dressing room with you, and the dressing room's got to respond in a positive way. I remember Ruud Gullit dropping Shearer at Newcastle years ago. It didn't go well. He lost his job. History teaches us that if you're going to go for one of your star players, you've got to make sure that you get results when they're gone and that the team is with you. And a lot of the time, that player is going to be more powerful than a manager because the way a manager works is walks into Carrington, does a bit of training, walks out. The way a captain does, walks in early, speaks to all the players, spends hours with the players. The captain, star player of the team, is going to have a far better relationship with the players than the manager. So, yeah. The bomb squad, done that one. Abil, done that one as well. Don't care what the players are, have done that one as well. Just want to make sure I've covered off these. Simply Red says, great, another 100 million plus fee after a few games. I like the idea of Elliot Anderson. I really, really do. But we can't spend that money on one player because that won't be enough. We need more money than that. We need more than that. But we've got Ben Jacobs on the show literally in 2 days on Thursday, and I'm going to get Beth to probe a little bit more She's not going to probe Ben Jacobs. That sounds wrong. But probe him on the why Elliot Anderson won't cost £100 million, because I think if that price comes down, it does get very, very interesting indeed. There was something I wanted to touch on here. The top takes is, if Ugarte Mainu starts from game one, we may be in a better position in the league and more exciting than having Bruno and Casemiro, says JB. Whoa, I'll tell you that is a hot take. So if we'd started Ugarte and Mainu from day one instead of Casemiro and Bruno and stuck with them, we'd be in a better position. We'll never know, mate. We'll never know. I suppose that's the whole point of a hot take. Look, let's be fair. With Bruno and Casemiro, we're 7th in the league and we're 2 or 3 points off 2nd or 3rd. So we're where I would want to be anyway. So yeah, look, would I rather... I'll tell you what, I'll phrase it another way. Let me have a look at the league table. So let me show you the league table here, because I think this is quite interesting. Oh, God, I'm never ready. I'm never ready. Watch this very, very quickly. Got me farmer jumper on today. It's not a farmer jumper. It's Ralph fucking Lauren. Don't see farmers walking around in Ralph Lauren. I'll tell you what, if you see a farmer walking around in a Ralph Lauren top, 2 things. Must be bloody Jeremy Clarkson, and why would you wear Ralph Lauren round a farm getting pig shit on it? I'm fed up of people saying it's a farmer top. I disagree, but people will say it more now. Okay, that's the Christmas jumper. That's selling out quick. Get the Christmas jumper while you can. That's not what I wanted to put on there. Here it is. Take and pause. Okay, what I was going to say is this. If I said to you, Manchester United are in... Well, you wouldn't even know. Let's say, let's say I take 2 points off United and we're down in 11th. So we are basically on 16 points. And we are 2 points off 5th, but we've been playing Ugarte and Mainu all season. Would you take where we are in the league now on 18 points, or would you go down to 16 points, still only 3 points off 4th, but Mainu and Ugarte had played every week? I would. I'd take 3 points off 4th with Mainu and Ugarte playing every week because it's more of a future. That's a hot take. League position doesn't matter to me. We're 7th, but come on, it's about points. Said this before, it's not about league position, it's about points. Like at the end of the season, I want to be 70 points, not 60 points. So we're on 18 points at the moment. I would take 2 points off, go down to 16 points, wherever that is. I'd still be 3 points off 4th, which is Sunderland on 19. If we'd pick Mainu and Ugarte, because that's more of a future. But obviously that's a hypothetical hot take. I'm almost done here. My work is almost done. I've got a cracking 8 o'clock show for you tonight. Do not miss it. Beth's on at 2 as well. I know what she's talking about. I'll be watching that. I'll be in the live chat. Let me just come back. I missed the beginning of the show. What is the latest regarding a midfielder in January? Says Mohammed. There wasn't anything about January. No, we're just saying like the prices for Anderson is £100 million, and it cannot, so it won't happen in January. Casemiro was once in Ugarte's position. You said it because he hasn't got the legs and he is finished. Now the tables have turned, and you say we can't glorify Casemiro because he's an old goat. No, you're not listening, Goldbridge Gold. Change your name as well, because you're not Goldbridge Gold. You're stupid. Shit. You're not listening to what... The trouble I have is that we open the door to everybody and everybody is welcome. But when you open the door to everybody, some people don't listen. I've acknowledged that Casemiro is our best midfielder this season, and therefore he needs to start. But I don't have to be excited about it and rim him like some of you do, because he's 34 in February. He's not even that good. He's just our best midfielder. He's not that good. He's nowhere near the level of some midfielders in this league, and he's not the future. So I'm not interested, really. I'm like, do a job, run your contract down, and go somewhere else. I'm not interested. If he plays well, I'll applaud him. If he plays badly, he'll play badly. My point is, I have never said drop him. I think he's the best midfielder we've got, but he's not that good. And also, it's not the future. We're not going to win the league this year, are we? If he helps us get Champions League football, great. Now go. There's no. I'm looking at this team. I'm looking at the goalkeeper. I'm looking at De Lips. I'm looking at Yoro. I'm looking at Cunha. I'm looking at Mbermo. I'm looking at Sesko. I'm looking at Ahmad. I'm looking at Dorgu. I'm looking at this team and I'm going, they can be here for the next 3, 4, 5 years. We're building something. We're not building anything with Casemiro. He's a stopgap. So some people just go over the top about how good he is, doing little compilation clips. You won't be doing him in 12 months because he won't be here. So enjoy it, but I'm looking to build a project. If you're just focused on the now, enjoy it. We're all entitled to different opinions. Mr. Miracle says, anyone who's talking about the Grimsby game was poor management from Ruben. He put together a team that was dysfunctional, hadn't played together, used youth, not had a run of games for rhythm. Still should have beat Grimsby, though, mate. I still think we should have beat Grimsby. It was only like the second or third game of the season as well. We were shit against Grimsby. The reality is, though, Onana cost us against Grimsby. You don't need tactics. You don't need formation to beat a League Two side. You know, when you're on that amount of money and you're that good, many people came out of off that pitch with a mark against their name, but ultimately it was Onana. I just want to. I mean, look, we only lost on penalties anyway, didn't we? Onana in that game was just a bloody nightmare, absolute nightmare. But it's gone now. It's gone now. I just want to better players in the midfield. I'm tired of watching us get run through, and it's been 10 years of watching our midfield leak, says Syndicate. I think the only reason Casemiro does well now is because he's got 5 defenders behind him. Can you remember Ten Hag's last year when we played a back 4? Oh, my God. Casemiro and... who was it? Casemiro, Mainu and Bruno. Oh, my God. It was a bloody nightmare. I think it helps him having five defenders behind him. Thanks everyone for watching. We're back at 2. I'm back at 8. Have a great day. Stay safe. Oh, I'm on Terry's channel doing hot takes actually in a minute. I'll see you over there. Thanks for watching. Take care. Speak to you all in a bit.